Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people. This is kind of exciting. We have 139 people signed up, so I'm sure you're all interested in the discussion. Thank you for joining us. Sharon should be coming in soon.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Sharon.
I'm the Bernie face.
Where? Oh, that's you?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Angel. Thank you for being here. Where's Mr. Bible?
I'm looking.
I'm looking.
Okay, we're going to give everybody 2 more minutes and we'll start at 5 after noon. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Please feel free to absolutely eat your lunch on the call. You do not have to put yourself off of camera. Please do put yourself on mute though. Nobody wants to hear you eating. That's just weird. We are, as always, going to center the voices of communities of color, Black and Indigenous. So if I do tap you on the shoulder, it's because we will ask you to take a seat figuratively and let other people be able to voice their opinions as well. As always, we center racial equity and other equity isms here. So please, by all means, respect each other and let's have a good conversation. We all have different learned experiences, so we will ask that you keep that in mind as we are talking through what I know is going to be a pretty heavy subject.
That's great. So, Mr. Bible is here. Maddie Thompson is here. Angela Asuncion Reed is here. We are missing Jennifer from SEA. Oh, there you are, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. I think we've got one more person.
Erin Garcia from Highline.
Where are you, Erin?
And Jabril Diop from WEA.
Hi, Jabril.
Hello.
Great. Okay. We're just waiting for Erin, but maybe we can get started, Sharon. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, let's get started. Oh, hold on. Nobody wants to see my burniness. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to today's Lunch and Learn. Looking forward to having this conversation with you all. If I could ask all of you to mute yourselves while we are having these conversations, I really appreciate that. It allows us to not hear other people's feedbacks. And also, I don't know about you folks, but I have two puppies in the back who always decide that right now is a good time to start howling. So nobody wants to hear that. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Sharon Navas. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Equity in Education Coalition. You've met my colleague and mentor, Velma Valoria, who is our Director of Outreach and Mobilization. All of my other colleagues are also on the call, and we are here to talk about reopening the schools in the middle of a pandemic. So with that, I will let our panelists introduce themselves. If we can start with Angel Asuncion, go to Mr. James Bible, and then Ms. Maddie Thompson, then we can take it from there.
Hello, thank you everybody. My name is Angel Asuncion Reed. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a mother of a fifth grader in the Bellevue School District. And I also work at Seattle University in the Student Development Division, Center for Student Involvement.
Was I next? Okay, I am James Bible. I am a parent of a second grader in the Bellevue School District and a civil rights attorney.
Hi, I'm Maddie Thompson. I advise Governor Inslee on education issues.
And I'm looking, I don't think Aaron is here yet. So let us dive into this conversation and then we'll just bring him in when he pops in. So for the, oh, here you go.
I think Jennifer
And Jennifer
Matter.
as well.
Oh, there you go, Jennifer.
I apologize. I thought there were a couple other panelists as well. I wasn't sure the order. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Motter. I currently am serving as president of SEA, Seattle Education Association. It's the organization that represents educators, including paraprofessionals, office professionals, substitutes, and certificated staff in Seattle Public Schools. I'm also a parent in Seattle Public Schools. I have a child at Mercer and another at Franklin. And I use she, her pronouns and identify as white.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I know Aaron just popped in. So Aaron Garcia, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Apologies for being late. My name is Aaron Garcia. Aaron David Garcia Virgen. My family comes from Guadalajara, Mexico. And I grew up in the Highline area my whole life. And I am fortunate. I'm very, very blessed that my community has supported me. And I am now an elected person on the Highline School District Board of Directors.
Great, thank you. I'm going to pop some of the questions that we have for all of you into the chat, but if we could start with, for the five of you, Angel, James, Jennifer, Maddie, and Aaron, the first question is, in your opinion, is there a legitimate, safe way to open up the school districts?
Are we in the same, I was wondering if we're in the same order as our introduction,
No, you can
or
pop.
it doesn't pop?
No, it doesn't, yeah, popcorn up.
Well, I guess I can, I can start. Really, I'm coming from the lens of a parent, and truly, I'm not so sure there is a legitimate, safe way for schools to reopen. There's so much data, metrics, all of the different levels of government officials, the places that we work at. There's mass information coming at us that informs us, and sometimes they're in conflict of one another. And as a parent, it can get really overwhelming to be inundated as to what's the safest. for my child, the school communities, and other families and educators, particularly at the elementary school community that I know we're a part of. And so I sense that, you know, a lot of the school campuses, the boards, sometimes, and again, I'm coming from the lens of a parent, are going to select the metrics and data that work best for the direction that they are wanting to go into. And perhaps it's some pressures that I'm not even aware of, whether that's family and families. I know in our district, we saw in the Bellevue School District last month, some of the ugly sides, right, of some fellow parents who are bullying teachers to be fired, and the Bellevue School District suing them and before, all they want to be is vaccinated before teaching in person. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and I feel that there is really no legitimate way for schools to reopen unless we all are able to. I know my preference is for my child to stay home. I can control that environment until all teachers are vaccinated, because I don't want to I don't have the power to say that teachers can or cannot, the educators can or cannot be vaccinated. They have that basic human rights to have self-determination on whether or not they should be vaccinated beforehand, and to be able to control all the moving pieces, I think would be complicated and difficult.
You want to go next?
I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Jennifer Motter. And, we've been definitely talking about this in Seattle Public Schools about what does it mean to open up safely. And it's interesting when I assume that the context right now, we're talking about health and safety in regards to COVID, but another, and so we've been talking about, what are those mitigation strategies to layer in? I think that what often doesn't get talked about, and perhaps people want to talk about it here, is, what about the health and safety, what we know historically within our schools pre-COVID was not necessarily always a safe environment for our Black and Brown students. And so I feel like there's sort of two layers to this question. And I would encourage, I hope, that other panelists, members of the community would want to speak on this. I know that this is something that we're trying to address as we talk about this at the bargaining table currently. In the context of COVID, I know that, there is no such thing as 100% safe or zero risk, but those mitigation strategies are important. So we need to have clear health and safety protocols, that not just that we have them, but that we also have a campaign to be informing everyone what is that, like trainings, if that needs to be meetings, providing ways in which we communicate this that are not just an email or, English only, go to a website, have to navigate the website, be internet literate. We need to make sure that we are being inclusive about how we communicate, because we want everyone to be clear on these health and safety protocols so that then we can lower that risk as much as possible. We kind of refer to it as our public health campaign that we need to have with our Seattle Public Schools jointly, educators, community, and the public school institution itself.
Maddie, did you want to, sorry, go ahead, Miss James.
This is something that I've given a lot of thought to. Having a mother who is a school teacher who is near retirement age in the city of Seattle, having a second grader that is in the Bellevue School District, having several teachers that are close to me. I don't just think that we should be evaluating what is the right way. We should acknowledge that we have also moved on occasion in the wrong way in terms of opening schools. Teachers have not been heard from. Their concerns have been minimized, trivialized, put in a place where districts reached past the teachers straight to the parents to say that the teachers were preparing to act unprofessionally tomorrow. That's actually how I got into this in the first place, because a day before this Bellevue School District was scheduled to open, we got an email and text messages from the superintendent of schools explaining to us that our teachers, the teachers that we've grown to love so much, that have worked so hard to understand and develop technology that allows them to work with second graders in an amazing sort of way over computers, were somehow going to be unprofessional the next day, which certainly didn't inspire confidence, but also put us in a place where we had to ask questions. And there are far more questions than answers. It seems to me that every district is rushing to open, and rushing to open not because it's necessarily the right thing to do, but because there is a group that is clamoring for it. And clamoring for it in such a way that they're adversely impacting civil conversation, rational conversation, and pushing things past the point of safety, the safety that we actually need. It seems as though so many have worked so hard to stay so strong and so careful, and we're close to having vaccines for everybody, that it doesn't make sense to not finish the game. Meaning, why wouldn't we be in a place where all of our teachers are vaccinated? Why wouldn't we authentically understand exactly what our protocols should be in school, in terms of the lunchroom, snacks, actual interaction with one another? An environment in which our teachers are 6 feet away from our students and our students are 6 feet away from each other adversely impacts their learning environment, especially when they're in a space where they could be studying virtually with computers, and many of them would actually have somebody right by their side. My son needs a paraeducator. For a period of time in the past 4 months, I have been that paraeducator. That's his need, his actual need. And now nobody can come close to him in his classroom for 2.5 hours per day. And that doesn't work either. So when we actually look at it, there's not a right way if teachers have to be 6 feet away from one another and their children that they're teaching. Everything that would be gained educationally in person is lost with that 6 feet barrier. And as a result, we need to be virtual, and perhaps we need to find better ways to be virtual. But I think that we need to be virtual until districts are in a place where we have authentically organized plans. And when I really delve into the plans, and even from the state, it doesn't seem like they've actually mapped it out in such a way where it can be successful.
Maddie or Aaron, do you want to you both have a different sort of perspective.
Yeah. So I'll jump in with what may be an unpopular position. But I'll answer the question real quick. Does there exist a legitimate, safe way for schools to reopen? And I think I've heard we're never going to get to 100% safe in this environment, in this situation, right? We have to acknowledge that and accept it. What I feel our board did in directing the superintendent in the school was, how do we approach this using an equity lens, using an equitable perspective on how do we get back right? And for us, it was saying, how do we center those who are furthest away from power uh, on guiding this decision? So for us, it was really centering the families where the current model just isn't working for them. For us, it was trying to center the students who it's hard. This has been hard. The students who don't have the supports to be successful, to thrive. It was really trying to center those families who need something different in order to learn, with the options that we're doing at Highline. And I think we're getting there. And that's how we got to our plan of the hybrid model. And I hope come March 1st, that's the direction that we're going, where we are bringing back our littlest ones first and trying to, and this kind of segues to the how likely is it that schools can accurately follow the plan without error? It's impossible, right? Because we're humans, and as humans, we make errors. The goal is to create conditions so that whenever there is an error, we can learn from it, improve it, and get safer. But that's the reality. We're all doing something new, and there's gonna be errors along the way, and we want to make sure that we mitigate and try to
But I'm just listening. It's fine.
so I really do think man, this is such a tough situation for all of us to try to weed through, and we're getting there for our school district. So I don't want to speak to how other folks are getting there, and I know it's tough, but I really do think that we're trying to center those who are furthest from power in the decisions that we're making as a system. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll let who hasn't jumped in yet.
This is Maddie. I really appreciate the comments that have come before. I really do agree. And when looking at it from the governor's perspective and how the governor has approached the pandemic, his first concern has been protecting lives and the health and safety of, the people of Washington. And he's also been led by science, the best data we have available. And that's a challenge because we're learning new things all the time. It's like time has sped up, during this pandemic. I think what we have confidence in from the advice of our own state public health advisors, our local public health experts who are reading the research, contemplating the research, looking at the experience of schools that are already open on site, either in small groups or full grade levels or full schools. So looking at the number of incidents where there has been a transmission in a school. Also looking at the data related to those who are most at risk due to medical health conditions, weighing also, the greater impact on communities of colour, and that, about 89% of the fatalities are for people above age 60, or I think it's 60, or it might be 65. I have to look at the data again. But, putting all those factors together, the CDC has advised, and our own public health has advised, that acknowledging there is no 100% safe environment, that if the mitigation tools are followed appropriately, then schools could reopen. But it really hinges on that great communication that school superintendents have with their own school staff, their parent community. And I think it's more of a challenge when we look at the larger school districts. Communication is key, I think, in developing that trust and understanding. The mitigation protocols that we have said are a condition of reopening. You are not allowed to reopen under state law unless you put these protocols in place. And that requires school safety committees that include school staff representatives. It requires to have a whole lot of other things in place before a school can open safely. So it really hinges on that good relationship between the leadership of the school and the staff of the school. And in those cases, yes, I think schools can open, and they need to be monitored very carefully. And we need everybody to pay attention and communicate well and respectfully. So, I've got a bit more to say, but I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thanks, Manny. Thank you to you and the other panelists. I do want to say that we do have a couple of representatives here from the Washington Education Association, as well as 1 or 2 representatives from the State Board of Ed. So if you are feeling inclined to come into the conversation, you're welcome to do so. We normally limit the panelists to 5 so that everybody has a chance to speak and also ask questions. So I didn't want you all to think that I didn't see you. I just, we have 5 panelists. So one of the questions that has come up in the chat and that we've been curious as an organization is seeing the number of students in school districts reach way beyond the 21 students to 1 teacher. That seems to be sort of that best practice when it comes to small school settings. How is it possible to safely open schools when we have so much overcrowding in the buildings?
But we have a system that is perpetuating racial inequity. And our people within that system have to unpack that and unlearn it so that it's not harming our Black and brown students. And I would hope that the cell learning that you just mentioned, 100%, I hope that it gets matched with this conversation about race, and we can have that conversation as we talk about reopening too. Because I think that's what we need to do too, is help our educators learn some of the ickiness that we're seeing right now in front of us the last 1.5 years, but it's really been going on for such a long time.
I'm going to ask Sarah Butcher to get unmuted, because I know, Sarah, that you do a lot of work of the intersectionality between institutional racism and special education and social emotional learning. And I'm wondering if you can talk to some of the issues that Harriam brought up.
Sure, and I'll turn on my camera as well. Wasn't expecting to be on camera. I was walking my dog. Hi, everybody. I really, really appreciate the question. So I actually am co-chair of the Washington State SEL Advisory Committee, and we just met yesterday, and central to our conversations are this very issue. I think the challenge is that there are so many technical pieces we are focusing on that we're losing sight of those adaptive issues, those relational issues, what we each need as humans to move through this space. Right? The stress, the anxiety from whatever's going on has only been exacerbated with COVID. And until we really hold those needs around what each of us as humans need, what our young people need, and really center those relational pieces, I think we're going to continue to see these tensions. Now, how do you do that work, right? Because I don't think we're very good at repairing relationships, right? And even building relationships that haven't been there. We tend to go to the avenues of least resistance. So I appreciate the question. I wish I had an answer other than we need to be in relationship and really focusing on what skills do we need to build and practice to help reinforce that healing and connection as we all move through this and hold space for that, because like it or not, this is going to go on for some time. And I'm concerned whenever, you know, the instinct is we want to rush back to normal. So we kind of have that bubble back around us so we feel safe, but normal wasn't working for many of our young people and families, as we've heard. And so we really have to lean into that. And I also think, I know one thing I ask of organizations, and my own organization, is really examine how we can inadvertently be upholding the status quo. The very issues that are causing harm that we profess to want to change, we are all socialized into this system. And so how, you know, we have to be willing to examine ourselves and our roles and really take kind of the feedback on and answer the calling as to how we can lean in and support our young people in particular. As Sharon mentioned and others have mentioned, we have to center racial equity on this, because even within social emotional learning, you still see a lot of white dominant culture components infused throughout. So yes, it is central to conversations I'm in with communities, and we can't assume that that just means go and implement a curriculum. So thank you, Sharon, and thank you for hosting this event today. It's been great.
Thank you. So we have 5 minutes left. And this is usually when I pose the question, how do we solve this issue? And let's talk about that for the next 5 minutes. But how do we solve this issue? How do we, recognizing that some of us have been trying to build relationships for years, and some of us are in relationships. How do we ensure, like James said, you know, that when we're talking about safety, we're not just talking about the virus, but we're also talking about the emotional and spiritual safety of our kids from things like institutional and systemic racism. So how do we solve that in 4 minutes?
You know, I got a hard stop at 1:30, so I gotta take out. So I just want to say thank y'all for engaging in this conversation, for challenging me. I think I really appreciate, because this is how we learn. This is how we get through the Discord and get to solutions. So I appreciate you all. I love you all, and thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you, Sharon. I don't got the answer.
Oh, okay, great. That's okay. And I also know we did not talk about professional learning around this at all. I think there's going to be a part 2, as there always are when it comes to our lunch and learns, thanks to, you know, Velma and her amazing thoughts of our topics. But you know, Maddie, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say there's a bill about trauma among the educator workforce. It's House Bill 1363.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat. Thank you to all of you. I really appreciate each and every one of you here. I know that we are all doing all the work that we can. It has been an incredibly long 12 months of a decade. I know most of us have grown years in the last 12 months. I do want all of you to know that we are working really hard to bring not only some of these issues, but some of these solutions to both grass tops and grassroots folks. Any questions you might have, I welcome all of you to come to our meetings. Would love to have more of these conversations. Our next Lunch and Learn is going to be about learning loss and what we can do to mitigate some of that. If you were here at our last Lunch and Learn, where we tried to talk about learning loss, it transitioned very quickly to how do we, now that we're on virtual, how do we revolutionize an education system that is not bound by zip code or redlining, which was an amazing, amazing conversation. And I invite all of you to come back so that we can continue that. Thank you to all the teachers, school board members, you know, folks that are doing the work, community leaders. You are all incredibly important to the work. And I hope that you are taking care of yourself during this time, and completely open to feedback. If you have any, the recording of this will be on our Facebook page by tomorrow. So look forward to talking more. Thank you so much for coming today, and we will see you at our next one.
Thank you, Sharon, for inviting me to be part of this panel. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.